Welcome back to Dungeon Master's Corner. Today, we are joined yet again by the wonderful Tom DeSillis to discuss a bit more of the beginning of his tabletop journey with us as Eugene Tealeaf, and some amazing synergies he discovered along the way. Welcome to the DM's Corner. I am Brian.
I'm Nicole.
And with us today is our special guest, Tom.
Hello. I'm Tom. I'm here.
Tom, would you do us a favor and tell us where you're from?
Geologically,
on the
or
on the internet?
Oh.
Where are you from on the internet?
Well, I'm from the You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. I talk with tabletop RPG players, and I let them tell me their stories, and we talk about them, talk about their experiences, their knowledge, and it's a blast. We have a good time.
It is. I enjoy watching it a lot on Twitch, though there are some episodes also up on your YouTube, correct?
Yeah, you can find them on my YouTube. I'm also a stand-up comedian, so if you just pretty much anything is Tom DeSillis and comedy, and you'll find my channel on YouTube, and you can find the episodes there. And then
Can't you also find them on just audio?
Yeah, audio only. Yeah, if you go to any pretty much major podcast site, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you can find it there, just the audio.
Awesome. And a wonderful thing about Tom being a stand-up comedian is we get to play D&D with a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, we
Yes,
do,
you do.
and it is a treat. Just a treat.
Now, to be fair, I have also DM'd for, 7 comedians at one time?
Yeah, it didn't. We tried a thing.
We tried.
It's hard.
We tried.
It's hard to get. As someone who full on respect, if I knew then what I know now about audio editing, having my own show now, I never would have requested that ever, because I didn't realize I can barely handle one or two people's audio sounding like crap. So listen, things happen. It might be, maybe one day it'll be a thing that'll happen, but it's not going to be anytime soon. And we move
those
on.
will be in our lost logs, lost episodes. Somewhere in
the B-sides. Absolutely. No, it is fun. It's fun playing with you guys. I did have fun, just to real quick go off, because that's what I do, but it was fun the first time, the last one shot we did, when I played a more serious character. It was a nice break. Because I play a lot of silly characters, and I was like, it's cool to just be calm and collected for once.
We can actually talk about that after.
But we are starting with my
That's true.
first character.
Starting with your first character. Was this your first time playing D&D?
It was my first
ever?
time playing. Okay, so I played, barely played. It was my first time really knowing that I was going to play. The other ones were spontaneous. One of them, we were just drunk at my house, and we tried to get my friend to DM for us, and it just. I always knew I wanted to play a ranger, though. I always knew I wanted to play a ranger. So I remember I did have a ranger built on a sheet, and I never really got to use them because people were too drunk. And then I played this one weird one-shot with a friend of mine with these magic missiles, which I think you guys played. Andrew ran it for you.
Oh yeah, the wand magic missile story.
Yeah, so that was my
which
first
you'll
experience.
eventually hear about.
And that was fun. Yeah, and, on another episode, we'll talk about that.
Talk about that.
And
this is how this show goes, Tom. We think of something.
No, that's fine.
It's another episode. That's
all part of the
Toss it on the list.
So that
Just
was my
toss it on
first
the
time
list.
really kind of playing, and now I know. I'm like, oh, I was rolling the D4s because there was a magic missile, and I had no idea. I was like, all right, this, and then we just died. So obviously,
it happens.
So yeah, this was my
today,
first.
Actually, we are not. I am not the DM for this one. Tom was not the DM for this one, and funny enough, Nicole was not the DM for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But Nicole, what was your role?
I was the assistant to the DM. This was when Andrew actually just started DMing. It was during the height of the pandemic, and just kind of wanted to get some friends together, have some fun. He wanted to try his hand at DMing, and wanted some help. And I was not inexperienced at DMing, so I was able to help and note take and also help him bounce ideas around. So we started with the Lost Mines of Phandelver with a twist.
I actually didn't
a lot
know,
of twists.
Because the first time I met you, it was so long ago. I met you in person, but I didn't even could barely remember what your voice sounded like, and I didn't hear it come through the speakers for like the first like 3 months of us playing. I know she was over.
She was like the Wizard of Oz, the woman behind the curtain.
I would just see like
just kind of
you just comment
sliding things to the DM.
It was just like I would just see a comment like smirks. I'm like, all right. Cracks
because
knuckles. All right.
I didn't want to like interrupt. It was Andrew's show. I was just there to help him.
But it was fun. It was good times.
But who was your character for both of you, actually? Who were your characters?
Sure. So I played Eugene Tealeaf. I'm a huge tea snob, so I was like, all right, last name perfect. Like I said, I always knew I wanted to play a ranger. I thought the ranger sounded cool. And then I decided to go with a halfling, and Christine was concerned. She was like, you can't model the character too much like yourself, because then if it dies, you're going to be upset. And so I was like, because he's short but stout, and he had like a reddish beard, and that was like his whole thing, so... and I always loved archery, so that's why I made him. And I think I wrote most of... It was the first time I really was going into this, like, alright, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I wrote a backstory for him, and I sent it to Andrew. I was like, this is what we're doing? I'm all in. I practiced my voice, like, in the shower. I was, like, so excited. And I was like, I'm going to do it for the first time ever, and I knew. I was like, this is going to be a problem. And it did. It became a problem.
It became an addiction.
Yes.
As for me, I played our paladin, Placid, the paladin of peace originally, and then that kind of got shot to shit after my goddess, the goddess of peace, told me that peace was not an option. So that is how Placid, the paladin of peace, became the paladin for conquest, and there will be peace if I have to kill all of you to make it happen.
And the fun part is you would think that sort of character swap would have to happen after a long campaign. Maybe there's been a lot of build-up. No. Session 1.
Session
Oops.
1.
But anyway.
As soon as he said it, he knew he made a mistake.
Yep.
Yeah, I fully understand that now, because again, like, that was my first session of D&D. That almost that entire session went over my head. I was like, what is happening right now?
It's what makes it so much fun to revisit, especially the moment we're revisiting today.
Yes. So
set the scene.
Yeah.
We were at Cragmaw Castle.
And spoilers for the Lost Mines of Phandelver, by the way.
True. A little.
You've been
warned.
warned.
It's like yes, but also no, because we did tweak quite a bit of things.
The biggest spoiler is that there's a castle and its name is Cragmaw.
Pretty much,
also,
yeah.
This was like the first thing to come out for 5th edition, so if you haven't played it by now, you're either not going to.
Yeah, FYI, Darth Vader is
doing?
Luke's father. All right, so just if you don't know that by now, too bad.
So, the party had gone to Cragmaw Castle, and we're starting to figure out how to approach it, because there were some goblins training outside, some were patrolling, there were a couple huge iron boxes set up that contained little homebrew surprises from Andrew and myself. But, the party does as the party does, and they initiated combat in the best way that they could. We also had a cleric by the name of Dick Hardwood, who was he was a life cleric, I believe, of Lathander.
And he had no idea why people were laughing at his name. None whatsoever.
You should get Peter on here one time too, because I bet he would.
Good old southern cleric. He was wonderful.
Good
and
old
absolute
boy.
sweetheart. And then we had Quinlan, a wood elf druid.
Druid, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that just setting the scene with our party as they're approaching Cragmaw Castle, about to take on the goblins. But what was your strategy? What were you guys thinking?
I think this was the first point. So for me, at least, there's two aspects to this. It was the first point when I realized, like, oh, when you get the surprise round, and that's when I was like, oh, you can be the silliest characters, but when you get the surprise round, you're going in SWAT style. You strategize like crazy.
We became the fucking Spetsnaz.
Yeah, even though we were like the goofiest party ever. And then it was also my first time ever casting a spell that was an area of effect. And that was game changing for me. That made my eyes go wide, like, oh my god, I can do this. And yeah, it was spike growth.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the thing
that
was
spike growth.
about that session too, we ended the session seeing the formation, and like I'm pretty sure we ended it where like the thing's fist, like the big monstrous one, was like bashing through the thing, and that's where we ended.
Yeah.
And then when we started, I knew what I was gonna do for weeks. For the week that we didn't play. You know, I was like,
Yeah, we just sat there.
I saw that
planning in
level
our
2
chat.
spell that I'd never cast in my life. I'm like, I get to cast a level 2 spell today. Alright, you know, on that day. And I basically, I did my part. But there was a lot to it because we really, do you remember like the rest of it? Because Quinlan.
I think I charged, like, immediately. I charged because I'm a paladin, I had no range. I was sword and board all the way, shield master. I couldn't do anything if I wasn't up close. And then, like, I goaded those goblins to come at us. Like, I was chopping down the archers, and then the ones were coming at us with swords. Like, all right, archery's not going to work, so let's go. And that's when you sprung your trap. Because they were running at me.
Because you got them all in an area. You just got them all like relatively in a good spot.
What triggered the combat, I thought, is I dropped the spike growth because there was about, I want to say there was like 5 to 10 goblins in the center of the grass, and then there was about 5 to 10 archers shooting at targets. So Quinlan cast the entangle on the archers as I dropped the spike growth on those.
Right, because I then went at the archers who couldn't move.
Right.
And that triggered all of the ones that were standing in your spike. They didn't know they were in your spike growth until they started moving.
Because they don't know that it's there until they start moving, yeah. So they move towards you, and then didn't you have a thing that makes things run? No, that was later. I think.
I do have a thing that makes things run away. That was a different part.
But you basically, they ran in and then ran away, right?
Yeah.
What did you do to run away?
They were getting rolled. No, it was the same thing. I have that conquering presence.
Yes.
I just rolled up on them and I used my channel divinity and they fled.
Yes.
And it forced them to take more damage. The reason I got to use it again later was because what we always forget, paladins and clerics get their channel divinity back after a short rest, not a long rest.
Yes.
So, you know, after they absolutely massacred all of the goblins, the hobgoblins, the special surprises that we left.
Yeah.
Which were giant
monstrosities.
I don't play Warhammer. I like the concept. I love watching mini painting YouTubers. But all I can think of are knobs. They're just these big honking like orcs that are more like goofy goblin looking things. But they were horrifying to look upon. So I'm now my headcanon is that these things are called knobs. They just charged at us like they were terrifying.
Yeah, and that was like my favorite thing ever. That spike growth. It was just so fun, and I was so excited that I got to like do that, and I was like, I got to do this all the time. And I'm pretty sure I got to use it 2 more times.
They aren't that far off from the knobs. Looking at them now.
Yeah. But my favorite thing about that, Tom, was your realization of just how good that spell was.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you said spike growth, you didn't see me because we weren't on camera at that point. My jaw just dropped with, this is about to be a shit show for them.
I am a very calculated person, and when you said and I think I used it a couple more times, and obviously this might get discussed in another episode, but then there was that part where I used it again when we were in the castle. And then there was just so many times where I was like, can I use this? Because I was like, area of effect is so cool. And it was cool because we were lucky that Peter let us use that Foundry program. So I was able to literally look at the squares and be like, oh my god, this fits perfectly around all of these goblins.
I don't think any goblins survived walking through
they
that
all
spike
died
growth.
very, very quickly.
They only had 7 hit points. They took what, 2d4 every 5
And that was
step?
the surprise round. And I do remember that whole campaign I rolled just godly on initiative every time. I know Matt would be proud of me. If he saw the things I did as a ranger, he would be very proud of me. Because I really I would roll crits on initiative all the time. So what I popped out after the goblins all like started running and died, I come out in the first round of combat. I just started chipping away at the archers that were entangled by Quinlan. I just like started ripping through the goblins, and they were all my favorite ever enemies, so it made sense.
We didn't even need to pay attention to those goblins.
It was a joke.
The spike growth. It was like
It was a joke by the time like I walked out. I was like, "Oh, this is how this is going." Just like
I remember. I think
Poor
I was
babies.
helping Andrew run some of those goblins there.
yeah,
And I just remember one of them just like giving up the will. It's like, if I move, I'm gonna die. If I stay here, I'm gonna die.
yeah. Just
Doesn't matter what I do. Just a nihilistic goblin.
yep. And then it was good too because then like once that was the other thing I learned though in that spell. I learned what concentration meant because I was like, oh, I can't have the Hunter's Mark and the spike growth, but it was good because the spike growth wasn't really needed too much because I think I kept it up when
You
the
kept
big
it up
thing
long enough for all of them to kind of.
they all died
And I think we goaded one of those knob things through it too.
yes, we goaded one of the big creatures that popped out. We got one. We
think
got
we
it to run
called
through
them-
once, and then it ran
I
through
think we called
and
them
go ahead.
Uvarden's Titans is what we called them because they were like souped up goblins.
Yeah, they were scary. They were big scary.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I think we baited one of them through the spike growth, and then
Which
after
helped.
that, I dropped it because. Did you try to get it to run through again? I feel like I remember
I
Placid.
think I did.
You like
and
tried to
he
run
just
around
goading
in
it.
a circle, and it was like,
He was not having
He was
it.
like, nah, bro,
Like,
I'm not-
DM was not having it.
I don't want to do that again. And that's when,
Learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Damn it.
yeah,
Nothing worse than a smart goblin. All right, well, this one's going a bit long, so let's I kind of want to end this one a little differently than normally. So normally
Sure.
what we do is we go, "Hey DM, what did you learn from this experience?" But DM not here. We have assistant DM. So I would like to ask, so assistant DM, what did you learn from this experience as a dungeon master?
One, the use of maps, digital or otherwise, especially when you're doing remote gameplay, is so useful, especially when you can visualize just where everything is, especially when you want to do AoE things. So they're super useful, and also your players are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they will do some dumb shit that will just inevitably work somehow. And just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Just roll with it. I think that's the
And,
best bit.
And because you are our guest, Tom,
yeah.
this was one of your first D&D experiences. What is like the major thing you took away from like this whole experience with this story?
What I took away from that experience, probably what I said in the beginning. Like, you get the surprise round, it's just like, oh, this is when like you really get to plan and go in like SWAT. And yeah,
Planning matters.
yes, a good plan. In this instance, the plan did pretty much go up. There were a few hiccups, but overall, a good plan will do you right.
Victory.
When it
was-
actually works.
Yes.
50% of the time, it works 90% of the time.
Every time.
Every time. Alright, well, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dungeon Master's Corner. I have been Brian.
I've been Nicole.
And I've been Tom.
Thank you so much, and we can't wait to see you in our next episode. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner. If you'd like to support us, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/reliablychaotic so we can finally come to grips with the entropy of a universe filled with thorns. Damn, that nihilistic goblin is really rubbing off on me. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at reliablychaotic. We'd love to hear from you.